I'm gonna keep this brief. I never thought I would get to that point with Sarah. We dated for over a year, mostly good times, a few arguments, but nothing serious. I was 22, she was 21, and everything seemed normal up until one night it all snapped. It started small. She'd get upset over text I didn't reply to fast enough. Little things would set her off. I thought it was just stress, but over time, it escalated. One night, I came home late from a friend's place, and she was waiting for me in the living room. Her eyes were wide, frantic, like she'd been pacing. "You didn't answer my messages. Where were you?" I shrugged. "I was with Jake, just talking. Sorry if I made you worry." She stared at me for a moment and then just snapped. "I don't believe you." She stood up, and I remember feeling my heart racing. I didn't know what was happening, but I could definitely sense something was wrong. The next few weeks were worse. She showed up to my work unannounced. She would send me 10, 20, 30 texts a day. I told her I needed space, but she didn't understand. It wasn't about love. It was about control. Then came the night I'll never forget. I had been texting a friend about meeting up for coffee. It wasn't anything suspicious, just casual conversation, but Sarah had been acting off all day. When I got home, she was standing by the door, her hands shaking. "You think you can leave me for someone else?" I told her to calm down, that I just had coffee with a friend. Before I could finish, she lunged at me, grabbing a kitchen knife off the counter. My mind went blank, and all I could think was to run. I sprinted for the door, and as I reached the hallway, I felt a sharp pain in my side. She nicked me, but it didn't matter. The adrenaline had kicked in. I pushed through the pain, finally slamming a door between us. I didn't stop running. I ran for blocks until I found a 24-hour diner. I was shaken up at that point. I called the police, and by the time they arrived at her apartment, she was gone. The next few days felt like I was in a fog. I had a cut on my side, but it wasn't too deep. I never saw her again after that night, but I'll never forget what she was capable of. I changed my number, moved to the next town over, and never looked back. I learned the hard way that some people, no matter how much you care for them, can turn dangerous when their grip of reality slips. I was a child, between 5 and 10 years old. I remember bits and pieces, but some of it is what I recall from my mother telling me years ago. My mom had a friend we grew up with, Donna. Donna and her daughter would come over and hang out with me and my sister numerous times, having sleepovers and things like that. One time, Donna was fighting with her boyfriend, and I guess had fled to our house during the breakup, or maybe she was already over at our house when her ex freaked out. Either way, I remember being hurried into my sister's room by Donna, along with my sister and Donna's daughter. Donna flipped my sister's full-size bed on its side and had us laid down against the wall with a mattress and box frame leaning against the wall above us, then moved the dresser to the door. I closed my eyes and covered my ears because I was still afraid of the dark, and my sister kept crying. This was the last I remember of that night. My mom told me apparently Donna had barricaded us in my sister's room because her ex, Fred, showed up unexpectedly looking for her. My mother went to defuse the situation and explained that Donna wasn't there. We hadn't heard from her. Fred went to his car and came out with some sort of shotgun, while my mom fled back inside and locked the door. Fred let one shot go as she went in the door, peppering my mom's back with pellets and the front of our house. I guess very shortly after, the police arrived and subdued Fred without a fight. I'm not sure how long it took or what happened between her being shot and the police showing up, but I know we lived right down the block from the police station, and my mom had called them when she saw Fred and before she confronted him. My mom's boyfriend, who worked the night shift, rushed home and was checking on my sister and I as my father showed up. My parents are split. Apparently, my mom didn't get to properly explain what happened in the phone call with my dad, so all he got from it was boyfriend shooting near kids and come over. My dad punched my mom's boyfriend in the face, knocking him out cold, before being told that he wasn't the shooter. My dad and her boyfriend had never had an issue prior, and didn't after when my dad found out that the boyfriend left work and rushed to check on us first. But yeah, my mom told me the truth about that night about a year before she passed away. She died with the pellets still in her neck and back from that night that caused chronic pain, but for reasons beyond my understanding were never treatable. Fred, stay the fuck away from my family. So today I was going for coffee and I decided to check out a new cafe that had just opened. As I go near the door, I am surprised and happy to see an ex-girlfriend of mine from when I was a kid. We stare at each other for a second, and then I see she mumbles something and then comes towards me. I go in for a hug, and after we greet, she just says, "Do you remember what you've done to me?" I was baffled. We dated many years ago, and we never had any issues of any kind. No major fights, no abuse, no toxicity. As a matter of fact, she left me because I wouldn't commit, but remained on good terms a while after, still hanging out until she found a job abroad and left. At first, I was scared shitless and immediately thought that there was something strange. I asked her to be more specific, but she wasn't telling. After a little chit chat, she told me she was referring to the time that me and a friend cleansed her house. It came back to me. At the time, we were stupid, edgy, semi-goth kids, really into weird and otherworldly stuff. After she had complained about feeling her house was weird, a friend from our group offered to do some cleansing ritual, which he did, but we were basically half drunk. According to her, 7 years later she talked about this thing with other people, and shit started to hit the fan. Like you could feel a presence around her house, drops of temperature, all that good stuff. She was very vague, but apparently she believes that some kind of ghost is now possessing her house. Something apparently unleashed after the thing we did, and her telling her friends, because nothing happened in the years prior. She then got back to England, but promptly came back here to escape from an abusive ex. At that point, I was really nervous and excused myself. She hugged me, saying now that there's only Christ in her heart and that we should grab a cup of coffee. This gave me really weird vibes, like weird cult stuff. I basically ran away terrified. Keep in mind, we split on good terms, very good. She looked after my dog while I was in England. As a masseuse, she took care of my bad back for months. She even introduced me to her new boyfriend, and we went out for dinner a couple times as a group. There's no way she could have held animus against me. Hell, once abroad, she even offered to help me find a job in the city that she was currently living in. This was not a prank done to get back at me. She once was the light of the room, always laughing and cracking jokes. The person I found was sad, with very still eyes, not smiling, not anything. Like a completely different person. This experience lasted 11 months, on and off, and honestly, it was easily the worst and longest ordeal with a woman I've ever had. It started during a UK residential trip in July 2022. We spent 1 week in the woods and the next at a community center back home. At the time, I was a 17-year-old college student, UK college, not university, and I was staying in a dorm with about 5 other guys. One day, my friend group started talking to a girl who mentioned she went to the same college as most of us. she seemed to like talking to me, which was the first hint that she was interested. It became more obvious when, at a silent disco, she stayed unusually close to me, and when I kept moving away, she exclaimed, "I was trying to dance with you, but you kept moving away." That's when I realized she liked me. She also convinced us to dance around a campfire while we were waiting for the other friends, and once she snuck into the dorms with us, which looking back felt a little off since the dorms were split by gender. By the end of week 2, I texted asking her if she wanted to go out. She replied almost immediately, saying yes, followed by a video of her asking to voice call. I turned her down due to my social anxiety, but that was another sign of her interest. Things went smoothly at first, but around the 3rd week of our relationship, she started accusing me of ignoring her text she sent while I was in class. She claimed my Snapchat avatar made it look like I read the message. It was about her having a panic attack and needing my help, but I hadn't seen it because I was in class at the time. Once I finished class, I responded and explained, but she didn't believe me. She even had one of my friends text me, telling me to respond. I tried to explain again, but she refused to let it go. We met in person, and I calmly explained the situation again, saying that if I had seen her message, I would have responded. She was calm and laughed it off a little, but ended with, "Just respond next time." By then, we were only 3 weeks into the relationship, and I could see that she didn't trust me. I decided to try one last time to explain myself, but if she didn't understand, I would be done. To her credit, she read through everything I said, and after some back and forth, she responded with, "I just wish you hadn't ignored my text." That was it. I broke up with her. I explained as gently as possible that I didn't see a future if she couldn't trust me this early on. I was still willing to be friends, but I couldn't continue the relationship. Her response was, "You're breaking up with me? Are you serious?" She had been the one to blow things out of proportion, and it was already past the time I had planned to go to bed. I stayed up until midnight replying to her messages. I don't remember what she said, but some of it was, "I guess I'll cry myself to sleep now. I can't believe I'm being broken up over a text." I also have video text, but I don't want to have to relive the moment, so I won't share it. The next day at college, I walked in to find her sitting at a table where my friends usually sat, something she never did. As soon as I walked through the door and she saw me, she wouldn't break eye contact. It was honestly pretty creepy. I ended up sitting with my friends later, but whenever she was around, she would try to argue with me. Something like, "You'll never get a better girlfriend than me." It was clear that she made everyone uncomfortable. At one point, a girl I only spoke to a few times from the residential trip even had to step in and stand up for me. She and her boyfriend had warned me about her before I broke up with her, which was part of the reason why I did. About a week later, she started dating a guy from my friend group, and it was obvious she was just doing that to get back at me. Though I honestly didn't care at that point. I was just relieved to be rid of her. When he broke up with her a couple weeks later, we sat down at a table together, and he asked, "Was she this aggressive with you when you broke up with her?" I replied, "Yeah." He then told me that she had the same exact reaction to him as she did to me. The climax of this came when she started arguing with me one day at college while I was sitting with my friends, not even near her. I'd never insulted her up to that point, but when she stormed off, I made a comment about her weight. She turned around and punched me in the side of the head. I immediately shouted at her to fuck off. I reported the incident to the college, and she was given a warning. If I had done that to her, I'm sure I would have been expelled immediately. I also got to read her report about me, which was full of lies about me supposedly being a terrible boyfriend. The handwriting was awful, and thankfully, the college believed me when I told them that none of it was true. Afterward, she seemed down whenever I was around, and I won't lie, I couldn't help but smile a little, which only seemed to annoy her more. Some people in my classes made jokes about it, but I shut them down quickly, saying, I bet you wouldn't be laughing if the roles were reversed. I later found out that she was also causing trouble with my other friends in the group and was eventually kicked out. In June, I learned that she had slept with a guy from college who was known for being an extremist during the first week that we were together. As for me, I'm doing much better now. I'm in university studying film, surrounded by a great group of friends, and I've been in a much happier relationship since July. One funny thing that happened was she checked my Instagram story, even though she doesn't follow me. It was a picture of me wearing my current girlfriend's ring, showing how happy we were. It's not the only time she stalked my profile, but I've moved on, and I'm in a much better place now.